this Thursday edition. We have some recruiting news that I'll get into. Bama's making some moves. Got a potential commit coming soon from one of the nation's top tight ends, as well as we look at some quarterbacks that Alabama has offered and what our chances are to landing in. One of them, kind of a similar story potentially to how we ended up with Keelan Russell. We also have Alabama dropping their second game in a row, losing to Missouri 110-98 last night. What is going on with the Crimson Tide, and can Nate Oates right the ship down this tough stretch that Alabama has? We'll also try to get into the conversation about the NFL Combine. No, we've hinted at it a couple times. Maybe we'll be able to talk about some of those guys and what they can do to improve their draft stock this morning. And then we'll also look at the the documentary that Alabama had, Coach DeBoer's first season. Some interesting comments from some of the coaching staff throughout that documentary that I think is showing that there needed to be a little bit of a culture shift once Coach DeBoer took over and is bringing his guys in. But we'll get into it and more. How you doing this morning, Pop?
Doing great, doing great. Running crazy, running with about 3 legs and 14 arms this morning, but excited. Glad to be on with you just for a brief segment this morning to kick things off. We'll be headed to Bryant Comfort Center here to kick off Live to Lead, but wanted to jump on this morning, especially after last night's game. Do you think we played defense the same way we did against Auburn, and the team was just as hot, X, and they never cooled off? We scored 98. We got scored 98 points and got beat by 12. And I think that Missouri just kept their foot on the gas and never let up. And that's what we were talking about from the Auburn game. Do you realize that two games in a row? I don't know if you picked up on this. 9-0 start to Auburn. We lost by 9. 12-0 start to Missouri, and we lost by 12.
12.
People better start talking about that Missouri coach. That dude went from 0 wins last year in the SEC to one of the top 3, 4, 5 teams in the league, especially at home. They're 16-1, so they have a better home record than we do. So kudos to them. But remember this: trust in the Lord always, and remember that this is the day that He has made. So let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Take it away, man.
Well, you want to go ahead and jump into the basketball conversation? I can always come back with recruiting.
Yeah.
But when we look at this, Alabama shot 53% from the field last night, which is really good, and that wins you most games, especially in the SEC. But Missouri shot 60% from the floor, so they were really efficient shooting from the floor. Bama hit more threes. Bama and had a higher percentage. Bama was 13 for 31, 41%. Mizzou was 9 for 23, 39%. Alabama out-rebounded Mizzou, 33-32, 11 offensive rebounds and 22 defensive rebounds to 9 offensive rebounds and 23 defensive rebounds. But this is where it got bad for the Crimson Tide. Alabama had 31 fouls. Mizzou had 19. Alabama had 14 turnovers. Mizzou had 8. So that seems like that's where the game kind of fell apart for Alabama, was not being able to stay in front of guys, fouling too much, playing loose with the ball again. Alabama had a decent game against Auburn with keeping the turnovers down to turn around and go right back to turnovers being a huge issue in this game. And as you said, 12-0 start by Mizzou. Alabama loses by 12. What's
Yeah, I
Alabama
mean,
got to do? Because this is the same thing that happened last year. We lose to Auburn, get beat by Florida. Had to try to figure out how to right the ship. Can Nate Oates and his team do it this year?
yeah, and I want to be straight up. I did not get to see the game because I was prepping, so I only caught highlights. But from what I could see, and then some of the commentary I listened to and read, it was that our defense, and Virgil Williams saying it, was non-existent. They were getting what they wanted to get. They were 9 for 23 from three. Um, and probably could have got more threes. But back to your point, lazy defense. Defense is played with your feet. Uh, you know, um, and if you're not in the right position, you know that's going to be the problem. You scored 98 points. You should not get blown out. It should be a close game, or it should be a win. You know, um, it's just Bam 72 said Bama better get that defense in check, especially going on this run they're fixing to go on. I think they will rebound. I think they will bounce back, but it's going to be the test of this team, the mettle of this team, X, whether or not they can rebound. And uh, it's just it's a really really tough stretch, and unfortunately, we would be back-to-back games at home in March Madness. Now, this is not March Madness, uh, but the road doesn't get any easier
No.
than having Auburn. Auburn was a tough game, but it was at home. Mizzou uh, is, of course, you got Kentucky, but Mizzou would be the third or fourth team in this stretch. No, the fourth. If you were ranking the games of this stretch, we were talking about starting with Auburn, ending with Auburn. You're at least Mizzou would be considered your fourth toughest game, because I think you consider both games against Auburn tougher than Mizzou. You consider Tennessee at
Mm-hmm.
home tougher than Mizzou. So that's three games right there. And then you have Florida,
Right.
which you probably would consider tougher than Mizzou.
Mm-hmm.
The only one that you would say that may not be tougher than Mizzou would be Kentucky and Mississippi State. So it's not a great feel, but maybe it can wake them up. I think this team is still struggling with what we mentioned yesterday, X, finding the right chemistry that makes all the buttons go, from turnovers to um, defense to offense. I still don't think they have the best fit yet. And that's the reason you play basketball. And that's why basketball is won by who's playing hard at the right time. And maybe the tide can shift.
Yeah, and so with that, what is that? What is Alabama going to do? Because we talked about lineup changes, we talked about the aggressiveness, and we didn't see a lineup change. We're not seeing the aggressiveness on offense and the fundamentals on defense. And we've seen that 2 games in a row now, where it's bad shots, not clean play overall. What is Alabama? What is the idea for Alabama to change and get things back right?
I, what did we say in football? Um, Sometimes you just got to make a change, and that may be what's up next. You know, I I don't know that, we said something last yesterday, X, about the potential for them to make a change. And we were saying that based on them losing to Auburn. I don't know that you really go make a change if you lose to the number one team
Yeah.
after not necessarily playing your best game. So I get that there wasn't any changes made after that. I think after you give up a combined 200 and what
204.
204 points in 2 games, I think you look at your defensive side of the ball, and I told you who would be in my lineup.
Diabate.
I mean, Diabate would be in my lineup to take the energy to the next level. That's where I would start and then go from there.
Yeah, Virgil Williams said something has to be done with Nelson. He was nowhere to be seen last night. Sears, although he scored, the rest of his game was awful. And we've seen the Sears benching. We have not seen it Coach O's do anything with Grant and the way that he just disappears.
Yeah.
So, something's going to have to give. Something's going to have to give. It's going to be interesting to see what changes are made. But we're going to go ahead and get some break and come back on the other side. We'll put the finishing touches up on this conversation.
Let me tell everybody, thanks, guys. Thanks, X. Thanks, Chase. I appreciate you guys. Wanted to just jump on and say good morning and roll Tide. Still with the Tide. Still think this team has a huge upside. But to CJ Watson's point, Bama has some issues, but none of it is things that can't be fixed and can't be overcome. And this team is more talented than last year's team. The only concern, X, is how many other teams can you make that statement about in the SEC alone that's more talented than last year? So the question is, how much did our talent level go up and how much chemistry can we find down the stretch versus how everybody else's talent level went up and how much chemistry they can find? Appreciate you guys. Thanks for all your support of what we do on this radio and everything else. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, when we come back on the other side, we'll put some finishing touches on that conversation, and we'll jump into some recruiting news. We'll catch you on the other side.
Tide 100.9 Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. A very good Thursday morning to you. We're relatively quiet around the area except for a little bit of intersection rift here in Northport, and that's on McFarland on the westbound lanes at Boone and Rhodes Boulevard. That's looking a little slow. Also, Boone Boulevard itself, that's a little on the patchier side between Commerce Drive and McFarland. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
This report is sponsored by True Green.
We're back in the Miller's yard, who now use True Green.
Their lawn started looking like a fairway, and pro golfers started showing up.
They love playing this lawn.
Get a PGA Tour quality lawn for as little as $1 a day at TrueGreen.com. Exclusions apply. See TrueGreen.com for details.
Got timberland in West Alabama or East Mississippi? North River Timber Company has you covered. Since 2011, Courtney White, a registered forester, along with his expert team, have been managing timberland and harvesting timber across 4 West Alabama counties. They offer comprehensive timber management plans, reforestation services, and appraisals. Courtney White says timber is like money in the bank. Don't let your investment go unrealized. Call North River Timber Company today. Email them at northrivertimberco@gmail.com or call 205-242-5127.
Get ready, Tuscaloosa. The HBCU Athletic Conference 2025 Hope Credit Union Basketball Championships are taking over Stillman College. February 25th to March 2nd. It's not just basketball. The week is packed with fun. Join them for a tailgate, a cheer and dance showcase, and more. All packed into 6 days of championship hoops at Birthright Alumni Hall. Tickets are on sale now for the action. February 25th to March 2nd. Visit hbcuac.org for details. That's hbcuac.org.
Hey, I'm Martin Houston, and I want to tell you about exciting news happening at Box Eye Care. They moved to their new location, bringing you a brand new lab, stylish new frames, and a fresh look just for you. Enjoy their expanded frame inventory, competitive prices, and faster service, all with the same great level of service you've come to know and trust. Discover this full-service eye care at Box Eye Care's new location. With their in-house lab, they offer unbeatable value and one of the largest frame collections in town. Schedule your eye exam today and walk out with new glasses in less than an hour in most cases. Visit boxeyecare.com. That's boxeyecare.com or call 205-342-0660. That's 205-342-0660. Visit them at 5003 Oscar Baxter Drive. That's Box Eye Care. Your vision, our priority.
ZipRecruiter is the place. ZipRecruiter is the place for talented teachers, savvy software developers, and master mixologists. ZipRecruiter is the place where you meet all these people and more. That's because ZipRecruiter is the place for job seekers who are looking for new opportunities. In fact, ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day, so you can find the right candidates right away. It's no wonder that ZipRecruiter is the place for skilled skydiving instructors, accomplished airbrush artists, and proficient pediatricians. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter to hire, you're missing out. ZipRecruiter is the place that's so confident it can make your hiring easier that it lets you try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. So if you want the right candidates for all your roles, ZipRecruiter is the place to go. Try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. That's ziprecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Becoming mostly sunny today, but very cold air stays in place. The high 34. Another hard freeze tonight, clear with the low at 17. For tomorrow and Saturday, the sky's sunny both days. The high tomorrow 44. The high Saturday 52. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 24 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The sound of Bama Sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on this Thursday edition. We're going to put the finishing touches on that basketball conversation. Chase, did you get to watch the game last night?
I did indeed.
Well, what were your thoughts? Excuse me, your thoughts on the game?
I was just disappointed. I think what Auburn did to Alabama needs to be studied because Alabama's doing the same thing again. Missouri got to, I believe, a 12-0 lead, and it just didn't stop on the breaks. I just feel like they couldn't guard the three. Mark Mitchell had his way. I think he had 30-plus points. The turnovers are a killer right now. I don't know why they're becoming an issue and why Nate Oates and the team haven't figured it out, but I hope this gets fixed because it doesn't get any easier as Florida and Kentucky are next on the schedule, and they are tough teams that can really hurt you. So I don't know. It was just crazy to see Missouri attack Alabama the way they did.
Yeah, that's the thing. Cedric Houston says Bama scored 98 points. Most times that's enough to win the game. I'm not worried about this team. Well, the thing about that is when Alabama, and he's right, most of the time that is enough to win the game, but that's enough to win the game when your defense is playing the way that Alabama had been playing defense. The way Alabama's been playing defense as of lately, and you can say, well, it's just 2 games. Well, it's 2 games into the hardest stretch that Alabama has against the best teams Alabama has faced throughout the course of the season. And that's what gives me a little bit of concern. And I think it's a little bit too much of hero ball when it comes to the turnovers. Now, defensively, it's no excuse. They just look bad on defense 2 weeks in a row. And when you're averaging, give it up, 200, 100-plus points in back-to-back games, whew, that's rough. But I think there's ways to fix it. And, Bam Bam says, definitely not a talent issue, which it 100% is. This is a very talented team, more talented than the team that we saw last year. But he says they just don't seem dialed in mentally right now. They need the leaders on this team to step up and get this team back on track, which is 100%. And as it was stated, Mark got his points. Mark got that. But it's the defense. It's the turnovers that make you go, okay, what's going on? Why are you pressing so hard when you've got other guys on your team that can make shots? Grant Nelson needs to be the dominant player that Alabama has seen him be in times past, consistently. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. Grant will disappear, and then he'll come out and he'll have a 25-10 game, and then he'll disappear. And then he'll come out and he'll have a 19-12 game. And you're like, okay, there it is. And then he goes right back into hiding. He goes back into witness protection. So if those two guys can get it going, the rest of the team will get it going when it comes from the leadership standpoint. And C.J. Watson says 2 super slow starts is concerning. That part is probably the hardest to figure out. We know that they aren't being coached to start slow, and there's a mental block there. It's not an issue of shots not falling as much as everything is off in the first 5 minutes. Offense, defense, effort, movement, rebounding, everything. Because my old intramural team would get an 8-0 lead on Alabama to open the last 2 games. That sets the tone. It's like Alabama mentally struggles to hold on to the stretches of good play because their hole is so deep. I know it's a point of emphasis in practice. And to that point, yeah, you burn so much energy and you're fighting, and when you make it a close game, it's almost like when they make it a close game, they take their foot off the gas. And when they take their foot off the gas, the other team is right back on it. So Bama's got to figure some things out there. Maybe Coach Oates will do some changes, try to switch it up. Cedric Peterson says maybe Aiden Sherrill needs to be in Nelson's spot, let Nelson come off the bench. Cedric, I'm almost ready to try anything when it comes to the way that he plays, and it is kind of concerning when you say Florida comes up. Well, we saw what Florida ended up doing to Auburn, and that was after Auburn got a big lead out on them, and they ended up winning that game by 10 points or so. So, what's going to happen when Florida comes to town? When we go, what are we going to do to make sure that we don't let a big hole get started? And not only that, but if we get out with a lead, how do we maintain that and keep pressure on this team? That's going to be the question to ask. But I'm going to switch it over to some recruiting. And remember, you can get in with us on the Empowerment Strategy Solution Hotline and join the conversation that way. Well, got some good news when it comes to the recruiting side of things and just added Mo Diabate would be dominant at the 4 for Grant. And I think that might be a move that you have to see be made coming soon. But flipping over to recruiting, football's got some good news. They've got the number 6 tight end in the country, Max Sutter. He has been predicted to sign with Alabama by Steve Wilfong. He's got a couple of other schools on his list, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Penn State. But with the way that the board wants to use tight ends, recruit tight ends, I think there's a really good chance that we land a guy like Matt. It'll be interesting to see what Alabama continues to do with that position and still figuring out what all holes that they want to attack and look and see. And with this new recruiting class getting picked up, that's going to be a fun watch. Of course, then Bama offers 2027 linebacker Taven Epps out of Tustin High School in Tustin, California. Big, long linebacker, 6'4.5", 210 pounds. He's 2027, so he just finished his sophomore year. He had 9 tackles for loss, 7 sacks. So my guess he projects to be the wolf position because with this frame, that picture of him, he's long and skinny. So I think we'll be able to put some weight on him, get him bulked up, be really efficient on that edge. But we got Pat joining us on the Empowerment Strategy Solution Hotline. How you doing this morning, Pat?
Man, I'm glad to see you got some good news this morning besides what I saw Mark Godfrey 2.0 last night. All I could think about when I was watching that game was Erwin Dudley and Mark Godfrey. They tore my heart out. I had tickets up in the club room, y'all. I mean, that for the whole season because I believed in it. And they just ripped our heart out, ripped it out. So why not? Hey, I'm glad you're talking about some good news that this football team. I'm starting to believe in my QB, and I'm starting to believe that this recruiting that he's doing a very good job with recruiting. When we thought that, hey, this guy can't recruit in the South. Anybody's recruiting all over the United States. So
yes, he is.
Maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and we can forget about basketball because because if we don't, it'll just rip our heart out.
I'm not ready to give up on the basketball team. I think what we see this weekend will kind of determine how I feel about the team going forward. If there's some changes made and, we come out on top, I think we're still in pretty good position.
You're right.
But you got anything about recruiting for me? Any questions?
Maybe we saw hey, Southeastern Conference, it appears to definitely be strongest conference in basketball, no doubt.
Pat, we might be the strongest conference in just about every sport. Football might be the weakest sport in the SEC right now.
Hey, and who would have ever dreamed that? Oh,
right.
What he set out to do, I'm talking about the commissioner, what he set out to do, he's definitely done as far as bringing basketball back to the forefront. We can't say enough about that. I mean, goodness gracious.
No, you can't.
Hey, but you guys, I'm going to get off because I said my piece. But if you guys, I hope y'all can stay warm. That it's going to be cold tonight here.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Cold today, too. Have a blessed one, fellas. Bye-bye.
Have a good one, Pat. Blind Squirrel to answer your question, is the Buford to Bama pipeline still intact, or have the wolves begin to cool off on the tide? I would not say that. There's a couple guys that Bama's still going after from Buford. He's a defensive lineman, Bryce Perry Wright. It is the defensive lineman. I know Bama's still recruiting him heavy. Coach Roach has a lot of contact with him. And then there's a linebacker, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. I have to look it up and get back with you on that I know Bama's still after pretty heavy from there. Is it going to be as strong as it was up under Coach Saban when you go back to the Dylan Lee connection that kind of kicked that off? I don't, maybe, but it doesn't help the last three guys that we got from there have all transferred out, and that is Seth McLaughlin, of course, went to Ohio State. Last four guys that we recruited have transferred out, and that's Seth McLaughlin, who went to Ohio State, Jake Pope, who went to Georgia, Isaiah Bond, who ended up in Texas, and now Justice Haynes, who has transferred to Michigan. So I would say no, that it hasn't completely cooled off, but we just kind of really got to watch how this new coaching staff interacts with Georgia, with Buford, and how their relationships build and grow there. But we're going to go ahead and get to break. When we come back on the other side, we'll dig a little deeper into recruiting. There's a couple of quarterbacks that Alabama has offered in the 2026 class, and one of them reminds me a lot of how Alabama started their recruitment of Keelan Russell, and how he's already a little bit higher up on the scale than Keelan was, but the start of the recruiting, guy's athleticism, his play type is a lot like Russell, so I'll be interested to see what Alabama does with him, but we'll dig deeper into that on the other side.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. A very good Thursday morning to you. We're relatively quiet around the area except for a little bit of intersection rift here in Northport, and that's on McFarland on the westbound lanes at Boone and Rhodes Boulevard. That's looking a little slow. Also, Boone Boulevard itself, that's a little on the patchier side between Commerce Drive and McFarland. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
I've just been feeling so sluggish lately. You should try the Metamucil 2-week challenge. The Metamucil 2-week challenge? Yeah, Metamucil 4-in-1 fiber helps trap and remove the waste that weighs you down. Start your daily routine now, and in 2 weeks, you could be feeling great. Well, it's been 2 weeks. How you feeling? Lighter and feeling great.
If you want to feel lighter by promoting digestive health, sign up to take the 2-week challenge at Metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Dixie Battery Supply takes care of all of your battery needs. Find the commercial batteries you're after and never feel powerless again. Come check out our Northport and Tuscaloosa locations or call us at 205-758-9190. And once again, power up all your devices by using Dixie Battery Supply, DixieBatterySupply.com. They offer reconditioned batteries starting at $39.99, and you'll find all the batteries you need. And don't forget to ask us about our golf carts. That's DixieBatterySupply.com.
Nothing in Tuscaloosa's history compares to the city's transformation under Mayor Walt Maddox. If you want proof of what Mayor Maddox can do, just look around. In every project, Walt Maddox focused on you, and you and your family deserve nothing less. But he isn't finished. We've achieved so much, but there's more to be done. On March 4th, elect Mayor Walt Maddox.
Paid for by the Committee to Re-elect Walt Maddox, P.O. Box 2233, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, 35403.
Visit the pharmacy at Midtown. That's the pharmacy at midtown.com. TJ and his team are looking for the opportunity to provide you with great services, including compound, home delivery, and a whole lot more. If you're looking for a great pharmacy that'll take care of all of your needs, including wellness classes, including health, and more, that's the pharmacy at Midtown. Call them at 205-579-9933. If you're looking for a great pharmacy, you need to try the pharmacy at Midtown. That's the pharmacy at Midtown, pharmacy at midtown.com.
Hey, Bama fans, this is quarterback Jalen Milroe for my friends at Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. Before you shop anywhere else for a Dodge Ram truck, a Jeep, a Dodge Challenger, or a Dodge Charger, shop local. An amazing selection of new and pre-owned vehicles are on the lot now. Go see for yourself at 550 Skyland Boulevard East in Tuscaloosa, or you can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show. It's Martin and Xavier on this Thursday edition, digging a little deeper into the recruiting side. Before we pick that up, Andrew Peterson says, I think Coach DeBoer needs to recruit guys that fit his schemes and systems. He wanted Washington without all the 5-stars. He can do it here too. And I 100% agree with you with that, Cedric. And I think that's what you're seeing. I think this 2025 class was a really good push and start to get those type of guys offensively and defensively for Coach Womack that are his style of guys. Because when you look at the defense, to start that off with, the Husky position and the Wolf position are very specific types of players that you need. And Alabama's going out and gotten guys. I think even though Daryl Johnson is a linebacker, he's a smaller linebacker, 6'2", 200 pounds. That Husky is a hybrid. between a safety and a linebacker. And I think that you'll see as Johnson matures and grows, I think he ends up in that position potentially when you look at what Womack did at South Alabama and who the type of guys that he had there. And then, of course, offensively, getting a Keelan Russell in that mold of a Michael Penix, a guy that can run but is really talented with his arm and can make all of those type of throws that he wants to make in essence. I think those are two guys to really look at as the shift in what they want offensively and defensively for their schemes. But speaking of the quarterback position, Alabama sent out a couple offers yesterday to quarterbacks in the 2026 class, and that is 4-star quarterback Derek Zemet out of New Jersey and 5-star quarterback out of Texas, Keyshawn Henderson. And when you look at Zemet's 6'1", that from what I saw in film, he's in the mold of a Ty Simpson. He'll be able to do some things with his leg, really good arm talent, can make a lot of the throws. But Henderson, to me, is that we've seen Russell comp to Jaden Daniels from LSU and now with the Washington Commanders. Keyshawn Henderson is a Jaden Daniels clone. He's 6'4". He's 190 pounds. He's the number one player in the state of Texas. He's currently committed to Houston. So right now, like Russell, he was committed to an in-state school. Russell's committed to SMU. We'll have to see what can be done and how that kind of moves forward with his recruiting and would Russell potentially be a little bit of a deterrent from him coming to Alabama. But Henderson's, like I said, 6'4", 190, threw for over 2,600 yards last year, 25 touchdowns. He had 7 rushing touchdowns and 350 yards on the ground. So really, really good dual threat quarterback coming out of that state. So hopefully Alabama can pull some magic like they did last year and end up with the top quarterback out of the state of Texas. You get those two guys, you continue pushing and recruiting. When you look at guys like Xavier Crowell, who is out of Jackson, Alabama, he was a 2027 guy reclassed to 26. He's already started to cancel some of his visits that he had this summer. I think he's a big Bama lean, and I think we end up landing him. Those are the type of guys, once again, when we talk about shaping this class, who I think are going to be some of the front runners. And if you get Henderson, I think that starts to pour in the commits and the guys that you go after in this class with being the top end guys with that. But Bronxville, to answer your question of linebackers, where does Bama stand with Tyler Atkinson of Grayson? No offense to Bama, but I hope he's a dog. And for y'all that don't know, Blind Squirrel is a Georgia fan, so we forgive him. He gives good content. And he says the right things when he needs to. But no, Tyler Atkinson, yeah, he's definitely a linebacker Alabama's going to go after hard. It's going to be hard to pull him from the state of Georgia, I believe. But I think when you look at Atkinson, it's going to be down between Georgia, Alabama, and Auburn will probably be the top 3 schools fighting for his signature going into this summer. And it just kind of really depends on what Alabama does with some of these young guys, how they fit into the system. You know, with the way recruiting is set up now, excuse me, you have to look at transfer portal guys wanting to, leave Bama, come to Bama. I think this spring window of the transfer portal will be huge into really seeing the big push this summer. Does Alabama lose any guys? Does Alabama bring any guys in? And I don't know about you, Chase, but when it comes to that spring portal, the position that concerns me the most in losing is the quarterback position. because we've only got 3 guys here right now. And everybody keeps talking about how talented the true freshman is. Well, if he's as good as everybody thinks he is, and he fools around and comes out of spring the starter, Alabama might only have 1 quarterback on their roster. You know, Ty's not going to sit when he's going into his redshirt junior year. I don't think Austin Mack will sit as a redshirt sophomore behind the guy that's a true freshman. I could be completely wrong, but I think just for the depth, I think you almost have to have Ty coming out of spring as your starter. That might be crazy. You know, let Keelan win it in the summer and the fall, but I think coming out of spring, you got to have Ty as your number 1 guy. Is that a crazy take?
I don't think so. I think Ty Simpson will be the starter when it comes to the summer because of how long he's been in the system at Alabama and the experience he has. And Keelan Russell, he's just coming out of high school. Yeah, he's going to probably change Alabama for a good chunk and be the player that we know he can be. But I'd rather see him develop a little bit and get some experience before we just throw him to the wolves because of how the SEC is. We talked about how tough it is with basketball and these other sports. Football is just the same. So get Ty out there a little bit, and then if you kind of see some dip, then Keelan is your guy. But yeah, I don't think it's in the same take at all.
Nah. Yeah, and I think it's going to be really, really important to hold on to as many guys as we can coming out of the spring. Because I'm telling you, we need the experience. We need to keep the guys that are here. I know there's been some changes. You know, Jalen Mbakwe looks like he's an offensive-only player now. How does that shape up the secondary and things of that nature? But, man, if Alabama loses a quarterback or 2 out of spring, it gets real scary of how this season goes forward. Because now you're really going to have to hit the portal for quarterback. Hope you can get a high-end quarterback and the question is how do you get a high-end quarterback after spring? Because that means he probably lost his job or didn't win the job. How confident does that make you feel? But going into this season, I feel a lot like I did in 2020. You had Mac Jones, the redshirt junior quarterback, that people were kind of like, oh, well, you know, we replaced the guy that had been a multi-year starter into you're replacing the guy that had been a multi-year starter in Jalen Milroe. You look at this time around, people are going, well, maybe there's a reason why Ty didn't play. Maybe Ty's not as good because of some of the struggles Jalen had. And then you have this hot shot 5-star freshman. At the time, the highest rated player Alabama ever signed, Bryce Young. Well, now you've got the highest rated player Alabama has ever signed, Keelan Russell. And everybody wanted Bryce over Matt. Everybody wants Keelan over Ty. Well, that was Alabama's last national championship with the guy everybody wanted to see on the bench for the young true freshman. So I got a lot of confidence in Ty, and I think he'll do just fine. But that's kind of it for the recruiting conversation. When we get back on the other side, we'll talk about some of the guys that are going to the combine starting next week and who has the most to prove, who doesn't have anything to prove. But we'll dig deep into that conversation on the other side.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Thursday edition of The Game, we're going to talk to Alex Scarborough. Got a new article around Kalen DeBoer. We'll be talking about that and the University of Alabama. We'll talk to Rodney Orr, TigerInsider.com, and we'll recap Alabama and the Missouri Tigers, all starting at 2 p.m. on Tuscaloosa's longest-running sports show, The Game, with Ryan Fowler on Tide, 100.9, 1230, WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Looking at pretty basic travels around the area for your morning commute so far. McFarland Boulevard, both east and westbound lanes, right around Main Street between Main and Airport Road. You're kind of on and off those breaks. And we're also moving quite nicely inside that construction zone. 2059 east and westbound between Joe Malisham and 359. It's pretty a-okie doke for the time being. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Tap into your well-being with Audible audiobooks, podcasts, and originals. Expand your life with expert insight and motivation for better health, habits, relationships, finance, and more. Start listening free when you sign up for a 30-day trial at audible.com.
The Venue, your new favorite Tuscaloosa hangout, food, music, and more. Come and taste what's new at The Venue, whether it's Liza's Sweet Shop, whether it's the all-day breakfast and burgers from Ramajammas, or the quality food that you can get at Finish Pub. Great atmosphere, great time, great people, great environment. That's The Venue. You can find them online at thevenuetuscaloosa.com, located off of Watermelon Road, just past Sokol Park. That's The Venue, Tuscaloosa's new favorite hangout. Make it yours.
The all-new Chow's Country Buffet is open now on 1100 Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa. Southern classics with an Asian twist. All-you-can-eat fried chicken, fried catfish, seafood boil, roast beef, brisket, orange chicken, and over 150 additional items. Chow's Country Buffet will be open for lunch and dinner at 1100 Skyland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa. Or check out the website, chowscountrybuffet.com. Call 205-810-8888. The all-new Chow's Country Buffet, Skyland Boulevard. Join us for a meal to remember.
I'm John Fail. 4 years ago, I promised to work hard for District 6 and Tuscaloosa. I've done that. I have been as accessible as anyone, answering your phone calls, going to homes when needed, and meeting with you on Saturday mornings. I have supported public safety, schools, parks, and seen new restaurants come to our district. I need your support March 4th to continue what we've started. I'm John Fail, and I approve this message.
O'Reilly! Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Taco Casa, quality, taste, and value under the biggest cactus in town. They've been doing it the right way each and every day for 50 years and counting. If you're looking for a great option for lunch and or dinner, then you need to check out Taco Casa. Taco Casa, and while you're there, don't forget to get a big glass of that sweet tea. Visit them online at tacocasa.com. That's tacocasa.com. Quality, taste, and value on the biggest cactus in town. That's Taco Casa, tacocasa.com.
Get ready, Tuscaloosa. The HBCU Athletic Conference 2025 Hope Credit Union Basketball Championships are taking over Stillman College. February 25th to March 2nd. It's not just basketball. The week is packed with fun. Join them for a tailgate, a cheer and dance showcase, and more. All packed into 6 days of championship hoops at Birthright Alumni Hall. Tickets are on sale now for the action. February 25th to March 2nd. Visit hbcuac.org for details. That's hbcuac.org.
Keep it locked into Tide 100.9 for more of the Martin Houston Show with Martin Houston and Axis and O Sports, Xavier Houston.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier on this Thursday edition. Man, we talked about Alabama basketball, a rough loss last night, 110-98. We've also hit a little bit on recruiting and where Alabama's trying to go and the board getting the right guys into his system. So we'll see how that continues to grow and change and what the archetypes are moving forward in the 2026 class. and dig a little deeper next week, maybe into what positions are of need really to be filled on this roster. But now we're talking about the guys that have donned their crimson jerseys with the script A for the last time as they get ready for the NFL Combine that starts off next week. Brian Square says Georgia fans are real upset Dan Jackson didn't get invited to the Combine. Are there any Bama players who got snubbed also by the NFL? I don't really think so. Not this year. When you look at who Alabama had invited, they had 9 guys. Tim Smith, defensive lineman, 2 linebackers, Quay Robinson, and Jahad Campbell. Punter, James Burnham. We didn't have any DBs this year. Got a couple of tight ends. We had Malachi Moore. And then we had 2 tight ends get invited, C.J. Dupree and Robbie Hoots. Jalen Milroe at quarterback, and offensive lineman Tyler Booker. So Bama had 9 guys invited. I was actually shocked, to be honest, and this is nothing against him, but it's just kind of the role he's played at Alabama. I was shocked that Robbie got an invite because, when you look at a lot of NFL tight ends now, there's not too many old school blocking tight ends. The closest you get is to the type of tight end that C.J. Dupree is, who has really good hands, that you know is going to get thrown the ball, that has the ability to block at a high clip. So Robbie, who is known for being a blocker, caught a handful of passes, caught several touchdowns in his career, a few this year, getting the invite. I thought that was pretty awesome. But when I'm looking at this list, I think it's really easy to go, okay, hey, Jalen Milroe, he has the most to prove. How's he going to interview? How's he going to test physically? Is he as athletic as we truly think he is? Like, will those numbers match? Will he be able to make the throws during that portion? Will he even throw during that portion? Because a lot of times you see quarterbacks not throw, but I think he has a lot to prove, so I think he should throw. But when I look at guys that have a lot to prove based off of their Alabama careers and maybe not having a lot of just pure numbers to go off of, I think you look at a Tim Smith and I think you look at a Robbie Hoots. Those 2 guys, like Jahad, I think if he tests well, he shoots up the draft board. The fact that he's not being consistently mocked in first rounds is kind of crazy to me. I think Tyler Booker is going to have a solid career. I think he's going to end up being the first peer guard taken in this draft. You might have a guy like Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell who played tackle in college but have shorter arms and might be forced to inside go. But I think he'll be the first peer guard taken in the draft. Then Malachi is still dealing with an injury or surgery, so I don't know if he'll be able to perform at all. I think Clay Russaw tests well. I think C.J. Dupree tests how we think he does, but I think Tim Smith, his athleticism, his ability to play inside and out, I think we'll learn how that goes. I think Robbie will have to prove that he's fast enough to be a tight end in the NFL. Does he run sub 5 in the 40? How consistently good are his hands? How well does he jump? His testing will be really important to see if he has a future in the NFL. And, of course, I think Burnham's proving to be one of the better punters in college football the last few years. Does that mean he gets drafted? Who knows? We don't really know how that goes. But the top 3 guys are Jalen Milroe, just because of the up and down of his last season, and then Smith and Hoots because their numbers aren't very impressive statistically, but how well they test, I think, will determine where they end up in this draft if they're able to get drafted or sign contracts as free agents. Chase, do you differ at all with who really needs to show out at the combine, or you kind of agree with those guys?
I think it's pretty accurate. It's really cool that we're getting closer to the combine and really kind of seeing the talent that we've seen for really since at Alabama. Oots I think it definitely is an interesting one because of the style that he plays. You don't really see that in the NFL anymore, which hopefully that comes back because I value it. I think you reward guys like that who love to block, who love to get dirty in the field. So, but yeah, I think it's pretty accurate with what you were saying.
Yeah, the guy that I think is going to blow it out the water, I think, is Campbell, though, man. Because he can play, he can be an inside backer. We saw that this year. We saw him play outside last year. So I think he might have the biggest jump to being a consistent first round projected guy. But I think Bama gets 2 guys in the first round this year. I think Jalen goes into the second round. And if he can get into a Hurts type of situation where you control his development earlier, I think it'll be pretty solid. But I think Bama's going to have a lot of guys get drafted this year. It's going to be interesting to see where they all fall. But hey, this is the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. I'm Xavier Houston. We had Martin on for a little bit earlier. He's doing the Lift to Lead conference today, and that's Chase Brumfield pressing all the right buttons. We'll be back here same time tomorrow. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace.